Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Black Men Matter series on the male perspective. The podcast that's all about dispelling stereotypes and shining a light on the rich and varied experiences of Black men from all around the world. Each episode aims to broaden understanding and foster appreciation for their unique stories that often go unheard. Now, here is your host, Lana Reid, to introduce you to yet another remarkable Black man with an insightful perspective to share.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today on this day, I have the pleasure of sitting down with a gentleman by the name of Kardell Sims. He's an author, speaker, and reentry consultant, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with him today, learning more about the work that he is doing. But first and foremost, sir, as I always do, I take a quick moment to pause and say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we can't get it back. And I truly appreciate you making time to talk with me. And with that, sir, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Once again, I just want to say thank you for having me on as a guest, giving me the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, let me jump in because I got a short amount of time with you today, and I got a whole bunch of questions for you I'm trying to pack in here. So let me get going. As I mentioned in the opening, you are a reentry consultant, and I was wondering if you could share some of your personal stories so people know why you are a sought-out leader in this field.
Yes, I am. I went from being recidivism to beating recidivism. I'm what you call what they call a state baby. By the time I was 15 years old, I was in juvenile detention center. From juvenile detention center, I went to 2 foster homes. From there, I ended up graduating high school, but was still adapted to the streets. And it ended up costing me 10 county jail trips, 5 prison trips. 4 of them was state, and the last prison trip was federal. And in federal prison, that's where I began to make the transformation within myself that eventually led me to the work that I'm doing today.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love that. Now, you mentioned the last trip, vacation was federal prison. What was it about that trip that said, made you say, hey, I can't do this no more?
They had, first of all, they picked me and 37 other people up, got us on a conspiracy indictment, gang activities, and they took us to the federal courtroom and they handed all of us the indictment paper. And at the top of the indictment paper, it said the United States of America versus Kardell Sims.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 34 years old, 33, 34 years old at the time. And I just asked myself, why do I keep finding myself in these situations? And the only answer I came up with was, I keep putting myself in these situations. So from that particular moment, standing there in that courtroom, I made a silent oath to myself that I'll be better whenever I walk out than I was standing in that day. And from that point on, that's all I focused on.
Okay. So part of successful outcomes is the reentry program itself. And a lot of outsiders looking in don't understand all the moving pieces and parts of a reentry. They just assume like you go through the process and presto magic, you should, come out and be successful, right? But
Right.
we know it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So could you explain to some of the people what are some of the pieces that are not working that hinders a person from successfully reentering the society?
The biggest piece that I seen that would make me do the work that I do today, and it's kind of my phrase now, but the biggest piece was starting reentry as soon as somebody got released. To me, that defeated the purpose. You don't wait till somebody's actually in society to start preparing them for society. And so what I started doing I started coining the phrase reentry starts on the inside, meaning reentry starts on the inside of prison and a self. And so when you start working with self, that can be anything from personal development. It can be to education as far as your GED, things of that nature, and furthering your education. It could be mental health programs, therapists, and things of that nature. It can be, you might need some type of vocational skill or trade. It can be many different things, but it has to start on the inside of prison. We can't wait till someone gets out to start preparing them for their release because they're already out here now. You don't have the time that you have while you're incarcerated. All that time is gone. Me and you both know if anything we wish we had more of throughout the day is to get some time. So if you don't take advantage of the time while they're incarcerated and don't handle a lot of things that they need to prepare them, then you just releasing them out to a situation that they're not prepared for. and most likely the numbers show that they're going to return.
Mm-mm-mm. Now, you're doing this work in 2025. We're in 2025. And you mentioned in your story that you started your journey back as a juvenile. So you've seen the system at work firsthand. Has reentry improved a lot over the years, or we got some way to go?
In the last, I say the last 10 years, reentry has taken some huge steps because the focus now is on the inside. The program is on the inside, getting everything that listening to the population and their needs as far as what they need for programming, what the institution may possibly need to get better. But it's still a long way because you still have what we call the collateral consequences once released, which is it might stop you from getting a job, it might stop you from getting housing, it might stop your background and stop you. You still get punished for these things on your background in many different areas. So though the reentry, as far as the programming on the inside, the necessity has changed, the outside part of the reentry with the collateral consequences is basically the same.
Okay. Now you mentioned the collateral consequences, and let me just be transparent and real here. I find myself in conversation sometimes with my folks, my brothers, who are in the reentry stage, and they're trying to do their best. They're trying to hang in there, and some of them come from spaces, fast money, fast,
Mm-hmm.
street. And I find myself saying, just it's gonna be okay. Just hold on. You have patience. It's gonna work out. And I know as I'm saying that sounds stupid. It sounds lame because they're struggling.
Right.
Making $9 an hour, um, and holding on to that versus I used to make this back in the day. How do you be a successful support system to somebody going through reentry when you know it's tough?
For me, you say it sounds lame, but it's really not because the biggest thing in the reentry process is trusting the process.
Mm.
Right? Everything you just said, like I've been through. When I got out the feds, I went to the halfway house. I made $11 an hour. I owe $700 a month in child support. I owe federal fees. I owe state fees. I owe all these fees. But I had a plan on where I was going. The biggest part was trusting that process. But part of that plan, you have to surround yourself with a mentor, with if you need therapy, counseling. You got to have that in your support system. Religious background, whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whatever it is, support system within that family, because these are going to be the one that's going to be there to hold you up while you try to figure out can you trust the process until
Mm.
you start learning to trust the process. So every guy I mentor over 50 to 100 guys in and out of prison. I run programs inside of prison, workshops, speak inside of prison. That's the one thing I tell guys. You have to be disciplined to trust the process. Yeah, I was wanting fast money. I was used to fast money. I just had to figure out how one, it's nothing wrong with wanting to have money in their space, but how can I do it legally for one?
Mm.
Then be real with myself and say, I'm not going to be able to walk out of prison and start instantly, even if it's entrepreneurship, run my business and it's instantly going to start making money the way that I'm used to. It takes a process to get to that point. It might be a 3-year process. It might be a 5-year process. But at the end of the day, you have to trust the process. And I tell the guys, like, it's no different um, than when you're on the inside and have to you have it's patience. So when we're on the inside, we don't go to child every day at the same time. Something might happen, might push child off for an hour or two,
Mm.
or we might end up on lockdown. Visits get shut down, and we pick up these patients, and we learn how to we learn how to somewhat in that system develop patience because we're not on our time, we're on someone else's time. But when we get out, we lose that same patience when
Mm.
we on our own time. So we have to remember to develop that patience and understand that it's a process. You're not going to get it all back in 30 days, 60 days. Don't come out trying to get it all back. Just come out with a new life, new plan, surround yourself with a support system, and then trust the process. And in 5, 10 years from now, may seem a far away because you're just getting out, but those, like, I've been home for almost 7 years, and it seems like that 7 years just went by compared to the previous almost 7 years I just did. So it might not seem that it's going to be it's a long thing, but once you get out here and life start going, that time goes by fast. And if you're unprepared, you're going to go back. If you lack the patience to be able to trust the process, and that you're going and people say, well, what's the process? The process to me is the work that you're putting in, and it's going to get the results that you expect. But you have to put the work in to trust that every day you wake up and do this work and follow this plan every day. Can't take days off. You got to do this every day.
Every day.
That the results that you're looking for is going to come into fruition.
Yeah. You would think, you mentioned, you're learning the patience while you're in there, and you should be able to transition that to the out. Also, structure, routine, regimen. You would think that would be, but as soon as you're out, some of that stuff just kind of goes by the wayside. You're running a very impactful program helping people successfully reenter. Why are there not more programs out there across the United States like yours? Why are some people getting it and some people are not?
It's a lot more programs, but a lot of things what happen is institution brings the programs, but they don't bring the programs based on the population need. So let's say you have an institution, and you do a test, and 90% of your population says we need mental health program, right? We need a program addressing mental health. Another 80% of the population says we need some type of entrepreneurship program, because we understand that 85% of those incarcerated have an entrepreneurial spirit. They just don't know how to direct it in a positive manner. And then let's say another program is we need some technology programs. 75 to 80% of those incarcerated are interested in the technology field and believe that for the future, it can help them financially, that, in the workforce. But the programs that you have inside that institution are, might be the same programs you've been having for the past 30, 40 years that never had the impact, that's not producing the impact. Your recidivism rate hasn't gone down. No one's walking out of here with things that haven't. You might have, and the program, not saying that these programs aren't good, but the thing is they aren't impactful when it comes to reducing recidivism, right? Because you can have a crime impact victims panel class and say you need to learn this about the victims and everything, but you don't have a mental health program or something where they're learning more so about themselves, learning more so how to deal with the trauma that they deal with. Because we understand that with me working in corrections, I understand, like, I fight hard. For me, is the mental health is the biggest program, the biggest need inside a correctional institution. And because what happens is we understand 85, 90% of those incarcerated are either under some substance abuse. Well, then when you start looking at a test like the ACEs test, where you start addressing adverse childhood experiences of those incarcerated, and you see, oh, this person started drinking or started using drugs or started venturing off in the streets when they was 10, 11, 12 years old. Why? Then you start looking at the household. You might see there's some form of abuse in there, whether it's emotional abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, or whatever's going on in the household. And then you start to see the pattern. And then we don't do nothing about the pattern. Then they get involved with drugs, alcohol, gangs, whatever, get in the system. And then you go to prison, and without addressing, and we get asked these questions coming to prison in the reception and diagnostic. The thing is, no type of program or no type of schedule or structure is set to address these things. And so now you go to prison, you get the trauma of prison added on to the trauma that you already have. Gotcha. Then you release, trying to deal with a new world and the trauma that comes with that. And you end up going back to what you know. A lot of people think that recidivism, the definition of recidivism, is just somebody that's running in and out of prison. The truth, when you look at Webster's dictionary, it'll tell you recidivism is a tendency to relapse to a previous condition or mold behavior. So the things that send you to that relapse are what you're dealing with eternally. And so to me, that's the biggest thing when it comes to it's more a lot of programs like mine coming in, but it's just to match it up with programs on the outside is the hard thing, because a lot of programs come in don't have a back end to it.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned the mental health and listening to all of the factors that go into somebody being incarcerated and successfully or not successfully having a reentry program. I'm wondering, the people working inside of a incarceration system, are they equipped to deal with mental health issues, or are they just?
No, I mean, I don't think staff, in my experience, I don't think the staffing is trained to the extent that they should be trained when it comes to mental health aspect. But at the same time, we have to look at, a lot of times we look at prison, we just look at the population. You also have to look at the staff. They go through things, they suffer from they seeing the same things every day that those incarcerated are, but they get to go home. Right? They seeing the stabbings, they seeing the violence, they seeing the mistreatment, they seeing these things. So they go through things on their own. That's why I recommend that you should, each institution should have at least 2 to 3 licensed therapists that works at that institution, not only just for the population, but for staff as well. Like they should have one that's just for staff. They should have 2 that's for the population, because staff, they don't, they end up getting manipulated.
Oh, wow. I have a friend who is a correction officer for, I don't know, I think she's been in there for 30 years. And she said when she started her journey, being mentally health trained in mental health issues was not a factor, but now it's like all of her job description every day. So there's been a transition over the years, and she's like, I didn't get hired on for this. So
Right. Yeah.
she's struggling on how to deal with
Yeah.
it.
But and that's been the movement in the last 5 years, is to push more mental health services inside of correctional institutions, because I guess the light bulb finally clicked for the powers that be to say, it's things that led to their incarceration, and these things must be addressed. And then when you got staff who dealing with mental health issues, like we know here within the last 5 years, mental health has really been big, just in the population of the world alone. And so this at the forefront. It's very important for staff and the population to have that mental health care for themselves.
Yeah, so because we're gonna have keep on having these cycles over and over again. Let me circle back because you mentioned something I want to touch on that. You mentioned some bills you were piling up while you were incarcerated, child support and everything. And I was watching some of your videos on your TikTok, and you were telling a story about when you worked in the governor's mansion for like $9 a day. And when I was watching it, it made me think of the recent conversation about the firefighters in California, the inmates and the low pay. And then also in California, conversations like gate money is like $200 when you get out, and it hasn't changed in over 50 years. So there's a lot of conversation about the low pay scale for inmates, right?
Right.
And not saying that we should pay $40,000 a year with a 401k, but we need to understand, some folks have child support. Some states it doesn't stop while you're incarcerated. Some people have restitution. You want to save up for your expenses when you get out. Do you feel it's time we re-explore inmate pay?
Oh yeah, I've been felt this time. I've been felt like because I understand certain jobs in prison, like when you going down the highways and you wondering how these trees and stuff is getting cut, and that's your population, that's your inmate population, right? Like I said, I worked at the governor's mansion, where every time they had a big gathering, whether it was a banquet or whether it was an auction or whatever, we serving drinks, we washing the dishes, and these jobs that we had, they probably would have to pay someone easily $70,000-$80,000 a year for the job, and we was getting paid $9 a day. And in prison, that was the best job. You got wood factories, you got clothing factories, you license plate. One of the first prisons I went to, they did license plates, right? And you're making 28 cents an hour, 78 cents an hour, $1.15 a day. I worked in rec. I made $22 a month, and that was on the top pay scale. Some people was making $12 a month. So so for me, it's always been time to. I always say at least be able to pay, like you say, it don't have to be $40,000 a year, and you can pay minimum wage, especially if you're going to turn around and take the child support out of it, restitution out of it, and anything else that you can. They probably end up taking, knowing Department of Correction, they probably end up taking room and board out of it. But at the end of the day, like they have to be paid more than that, because $200 once you get release fee, and California kind of lucky because Missouri you don't get nothing. I think the feds, I don't think I got nothing. I think I got I think I might have got like $90 on the card, but I think some of that was some money that I have already on my books. But if you get like in the government, when I worked at the governor's mansion, I was able to save because, and like in the video I talk about $9 a day. It might not sound like a lot out here, but in prison, $9 a day, you winning if you ain't got nobody sending you no money, because you looking at making $180 to $220 a week, depending on how many days. And then sometimes you might have to work on the weekend, depending on if they have banquets and things like that. And so I wasn't spending a lot of money because I was working at the governor's mansion from 7 in the morning to 6, almost like 10, 11-hour days. So I would eat there. And so I was able to save money, write green checks. Back then, they had what you do green checks. If you were sending money out, you had to send it in the green check. I was seeing green checks home to have money saved up so when I got released. And so that's a plus. But if you give some opportunity of at least paying a minimum wage, like there's some jobs, like in the feds, they have unicorn, what they call unicorn. So in unicorn, them type of jobs, you get paid good money. And there's some places where you get paid almost like I'll say a close to minimum wages, right? And then they also have a savings system with that. So the guys who go through them type of programs, and they come out on a better foot than someone who's just inside of prison and not in them programs. But let's say they worked on the street crew, or they worked on rec, or the yard crew, or in the kitchen. Like kitchen is one of the worst jobs you want to have, but it has its benefits.
Free food, right?
Free food, but at the same time, you might make $12 a month. Yeah. So yeah, that's how the jobs are in prison. Some jobs don't pay at all. You just got to do the dorm. You work in the dorm. You might be a dorm worker and don't get paid at all. So it varies in states and prisons, but the average price of a person incarcerated make an average around 68 cents.
I don't. I mean, and maybe it's not for me to understand, but I just don't understand the mindset, because a lot of times when you sentence a person, you're slapping restitution on them. And like I said, some people are going into it with child support. It's like you're setting somebody up for failure, because when that person comes out, they're behind the ball economically already, and then they're trying to economically find some sort of place to live. It just seems like you're but that's
you got to look up until the last, like I say, 10 years or so. They wasn't concerned with what happens once you're released. Their concern was, what can we get out you while you're in our custody? Prison, people think a prison can't operate without its guards, but in reality, the way the population, the inmates make the prison operate, because we held every job in there outside of what you would say normal staff, outside of being the CEO. Laundry, kitchen, rec, porter. They don't hire a cleaning crew to come clean up the head building. No, you got the inmate porters. We do every job in the prison outside of having the keys and locking, walking around counting, right?
It's like its own little ecosystem that is just monetizing off the backs of. I don't know. I got my issues with it, but I'm
no. That's what it is. That's what I said. They never cared about what happens once we get out of there. How are we being used once we're in there?
It's a business. It's a big business,
and if we don't prepare you, then what happens? They be right back.
Right back in there. You're right back in there. And I just really wish, especially in our communities, we would understand that's the game plan, to just kind of keep you going back through that door. So, anyways, let me move on. You have a program, a correctional program?
Yes.
So what do you teach to the folks there?
So I got on the Inside Reentry Academy. We've covered many different programs. Personal development was the first program that I designed based on everything that it took for me to transform, from building the vision boards to understand needs, wants, beliefs, desires, personality type, your learning style, attitude, how to be resilient, all these different things. And so I built the program based off that. And then from there, I built entrepreneurship programs, how to communicate your story through writing and speaking, because I'm a national speaker. I'm on 13 books. So I it's a lot of guys that want to share their stories and don't know how Amazon works, don't know what it takes to become a speaker and things of these nature. So I bring that side. Then we do other programs. We have career development, but under my banner on the Inside Reentry Academy, it's not just my programs. I bring on other programs that I feel that fits the banner. And so I have a network that I've built. That's why my branches across the nation, because I have a network that I built with other programs that, because I'm one of the emerging leaders in a lot of a lot of states reach out to me for program, I'm able to say, oh, okay, what type of program you need? Okay. And then I start looking in that area and things like that. And they're like, oh, the company academy is certified and things like that. So we vary from a career development to entrepreneurship to personal development to mental health to sober living programs and so forth.
Okay. So when it comes to reentry programs, when does somebody behind bars start this process and encounter you? Is it, like 6 months before release or a year before release, or when does it start?
It starts as soon as you come through the door.
Okay.
Yeah. My program is focused on when people come through the door. I have a successful behavior behind bars program that focuses on the behavior you need to possess while you're incarcerated to start actually being prepared. So when you walk out of here, you're being prepared for your release. And then on my back end, I have a mentorship program set up, and then the certain programs at the end, they're able to continue it on the outside. So that way we be able to keep the numbers. They get the mentorships. They reach out to me, and I got a team of probably like 20 to 30 mentors who've been through it. And so we basically just have a web for when the guys get released, no matter what area they're in. We're able to connect them with the mentors and resources that they need. And we usually know this before they walk out the gate from the program. A lot of times we go in with specific programs, but what I've learned is that no matter what program you're going in, you're still going to have to help those with other areas of their life. Because your ultimate goal is to make sure that they prepare when they walk out the door, that they have the information to these places, that they have the living. If they didn't have a living place, that they on the list, or there's other places they can go. You found these places and things like that. And so that's what it's all about to me, is providing that web for them.
Awesome. 7 years, brother. You hit the ground running. I'm so proud. 7 years. You've been doing the thing.
I came out of nowhere on a lot of people in the reentry, but I had this on my vision board when I was locked up, that I used to tell guys, I used to sit in there, man, you can't beat federal probation, man. They didn't send me back. They come back.
The devil is a lie.
Yeah, they be like, the PO gonna follow you. And I used to tell guys, when I get out, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna come back and show people how to do it, what it takes to do it.
I love it. I love it. Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of times parents will have a child and they're noticing that their child is taking a few wrong turns, hanging out with the wrong people, and we want to turn the car around sometimes. But as parents, sometimes we don't know how to do that. As the community around this child doesn't know how to do that. Law enforcement, who has that first encounter with the child, doesn't have the first tools. What are some early intervention tools that we can implement to kind of not even so this child doesn't even have to travel these roads?
Programs, mentorship programs like Big Brother, Big Sister. Someone that's a mentor, but not so much age gap that they turn off listening to them because the young like, oh, you too old and you don't know, as if we haven't been through this, but you find some mentors that's saying close to them. That's just one way. Getting them involved in like programs and things like that. But in society now, you have to really understand what your child is really into. To give an example, like my youngest child he'll be 17 here pretty soon. Ever since he got into his teenage years, oh man,
You catch another case.
yeah. But it took a while. I mean, because he's dealing with his father's been in and out of prison, right? So I had to understand him, get to know him for one, as not just more than my son, but him as a person, what he's into and things like that. And then get to understand what's his avenue of stress release that's not alcohol, drugs, and things like that. And so once I was able to know that, then I could kind of see what his interest was and see what type of things I can come up with to get him involved in them things that are based around his interest. But like, it's kind of hard because we think that they teenagers, that they don't go through stuff, but you'd be surprised what teenagers go through in this day of time with social media and all type of things going on. So to me, it's more so kind of paying attention, more so. And you can say, well, I do pay attention, right? But then finding an outlet, a positive outlet for them to go or be a part of, and not have to hear you and all the time, right? I had to hear your authority, all your authority. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, so
You don't know what I'm dealing with anyway, right? So don't know. Mom and pops done been there, done that. So okay, right. all right. We don't know what we're talking about there. Okay, all right. Now listening to you talk about your son, that brings into another element of the reentry process. You're already a person is already dealing with, I gotta deal with my PO. I gotta find a place to stay. I gotta find work. But I got loved ones, mama, daddy, kids. Is it hard to reestablish that bond, or is it stressful?
That's part of the reentry, right? I think a lot of people forget. I think when you think about reentry, people forget rebuilding and repairing family relationships or just relationships in general is part of reentry. A lot of that repairing the relationship is family. So like me, I have 5 children. So I've been running out of prison all their life. So when I finally get it right and say, yeah, dad's gonna come home, man, I'm gonna do this, do that, they looking at me like, nah, pops. Yeah, like, nah, yeah, it sounds cool. And now they're teenagers, they done I done missed 3 graduations, so they're grown, and it's kind of more like they standoffish for a few years to see if I'm actually going to do what I said I was going to do, or am I going to just go back to prison like I've been doing? And so rebuilding and repairing them, you go through a lot. Like it was like since we talking about my youngest son, like it was one point in time where we had to go through what we went through. Like he talked bad about me. Now the things he said was true, just in the manner that he was in the midst of getting in trouble for some things. But the things that came out was true, just how he said it was disrespectful. So it was a lesson to be taught on my behalf. But at the same time, I had to let him understand I hear and feel what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I understand that it's to you. It's like, man, I ain't never been here all your life, and I just come in and I don't want to be a father. So I understand that. I hear you, but the way you said it in a disrespectful manner, I have to teach you a lesson on that behalf because the rate that you could possibly be going, someone would kill you in the streets for talking to them that way.
Yeah.
And then and so yeah, it's tough, but
rough.
that's part of my reentry journey, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to rebuild and repair those relationships that I don't say you have to, but for me as a human being, how I was raised, in my spirit, I have to repair and rebuild these relationships. And then from that point on, be the person who I say I'm going to be, whether I'm going to be a father, brother, or whatever, but be that person.
That's right. And then it increases your support system and increases the chances of a successful. Yeah. So are there, because I don't know the elements of the various programs, but are there family therapy sessions, reentry before release?
Yeah, so yeah, there's programs like that where you do family building, family repairing relationships, where you have family come in. They might sit down with a counselor, like licensed therapist, and they might do 8 sessions, about 8 to 16 sessions, and they do that once every week or once every other week. But they have the time to sit down there in that session, and that goes back to the program. Like each program comes with different things, but when that program specifically, that's what they focus on. Like you might have a parenting program that might just focus on the aspect of parents, but then you might have a parenting family rebuilding where they bring the children in, the other parent teach how to co-parent, therapy sessions, and things like that.
Okay, got you. All right. Actually, I got 2 more questions for you, then you'll be done with me. I've taken up, oh yeah, okay, taken up more of my time than I thought. One of the things I saw you mention was how tech is coming into the behind bars. How is technology impacting or providing more outcomes for incarcerated individuals?
Oh, the tech side has changed the game in the sense because, like, for one, you had the tablets. And so with the tablets come vocational programs, come positive podcasts, becomes higher education opportunities and programs that they can use. But then not only on that, you're able to bring in virtual reality or virtual simulation programs, right? So you might have virtual welding, another program, vehicle in motion, where they come in and they teach you how to be auto mechanics, all using a headset and virtual reality. You have CDL simulations where you actually have the CDL trucking and things like that, where and so
we ain't got no excuse not to be winning once we step out then.
See, and I'm glad you said that because now the thing is coming to applying yourself, right? Applying yourself because the programs are starting to be put in these institutions that need to be there. And now on top of that, you get a lot of these programs are built by people who've been through it, formerly incarcerated individuals. You got honest jobs. They are a platform to help you find a job while you're incarcerated. That was built by someone who was incarcerated. Like you have Career Edge. They help you. They so good in technology that they start off with life skills and they use AI, and you got these AI programs on there that you're actually doing mock interviews on the programs while incarcerated. You're building your resume. You're able to go job search on Indeed and these things. And so you have opportunity now when it comes to the application, you know. And if they have something that you might not be interested, I always tell guys get into something. Get into something. When I was in federal prison, I wasn't interested in janitorial, but I told myself I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I said, well, I know I can go out and start a business cleaning. I ain't got no, you know what I'm saying, learn how to, I can go out here and do this now, you know. I wasn't interested in the hotel hospitality and lodging, but when I took the class, I took it because I needed another vocational skill and something that can get me in the door when I got out there. And so when I graduated with a certified concierge pen. I was a certified concierge walking out of prison. When I took Serve Safe, I wasn't planning on being no food preparation, no manager, no fast food place, or none of that. But I said, if I got a certificate, it puts me in starting off at an assistant manager position, no matter where I went in. So if I need to use these are going to come in handy. But I had a separate vision for myself. But I took advantage of the program that was there. I didn't want to come out learning Spanish and nothing like that, but I took Spanish in prison, talked about black dude who I rode the bus with that I didn't even know spoke Spanish until we got there, and one of the Hispanics couldn't speak to the guards, and he started translating, and then I found out he was coming back on. He was already in the prison. He was coming back on the writ, and he had a Spanish class. So I said, "Oh, brothers teach Spanish. I might learn something." Right? And so I took it with the thought of that. This is gonna come in handy in this case. I need to use it. I'll be able to use it. But yeah, at the end of the day, I had a vision board of me coming out, starting a life coaching company, speaking company, and books. But I got the extra stuff because the prison offered it, and I wanted to take advantage of it. So you got programs coming in. This program, I fight hard for programs to come in, especially programs ran by those who've been through it, because now it shows you no excuses. It shows you, like in my program, the ones I physically teach, I bring in 2 people every month to speak to my classes that been through it. And the reason why I do that is to change that reticular activating system that they seeing, seeing over and over. People who actually been in our shoes and now they're out there doing something great. They're not running in and out of prison, whether it's working a 9 to 5 and you bought you a home and you got your 401k building up, or if you're starting your own business, or if you speaking or whatever it is, you're not running in and out of prison.
That's the end goal. It's the end goal. I just want to see more of them succeed than not, So my last question, sir, and you kind of alluded to this, 13 books. This is the 13th book. I don't know, you was writing 2 a year or did you start the first one before you?
Yeah, I wrote my first 3 when I was incarcerated. A guy came in and told me about Amazon. You can sell your own books. And one of the biggest things for me was when I was going to prison was all about money. Every time I got out of prison, I went to the block hustling money. So my last prison, I had to figure out a way to make money the right way. So when he told me about, yeah, man, they got the Amazon, you can write your own books, and then it ain't gonna cost you nothing to put it on there and sell it on there. And I said, it ain't gonna cost me nothing. Like, no, you can write it, get you a cover and put it on there and sell it for $20, $25. You're gonna make some money. So I said, all right. So I just started writing books with the intention when I got out to type the books up and to sell them for extra money.
A hustler turns to a legal hustler. I like that.
Yeah, and then I seen how well them books did. I just kept writing, and then I started creating workbooks, and then I just started. Then when COVID hit, I wrote this book about my life, and it took off. And from that, it put me on a speaking tour, and I started my podcast, and that's how I built my program off that. And so that was one of the last books I had wrote outside the workbooks that I've been building. And so this last book's called On the Inside because it kind of picks up where that book left off. And it talks about how it started on the inside. Remember, I was talking about reentry starts on the inside of prison itself, but more focusing on what it took on the inside of me to not only make the transformation, but build the purpose-driven empire that I built and go to get back inside the institution. And it talks about every step on the way, from me working in the halfway house, working the telemarketer job, to me leaving the halfway house, working the Dollar Tree at 5 in the morning, to working in a sporting goods store, to working at a home improvement lead generator, to working at FedEx, until my business, into branching off and running my own business.
7 years. So what's going to happen in the next 7 years, Mr. Sims?
So right now I'm focused on the building the virtual simulation side on the Inside Reentry Academy, because I know this is where a correction program is going. So I want to actually build life-made programs for guys to where they wake up every day for 60, 90-day program. Let's say you want to be a truck driver. You get into the truck driving CDL. This is what you do every day for 90 days. You wake up You go get on the simulator for 10 hours, 12 hours, you finish the life of a truck driver. You had a headset where they're going inside of the truck stops and things like that, but it's also interactive. So you're going to be answering questions and things like that. Also, just going to have like a life skills and development program as well, like someone who's done 15, 20, 30 years to before you release them, they do this 90-day program where they're actually getting the actual feel and taught about how to operate phones, what the different social media, and putting them in world positions through virtual reality, virtual simulation to help them adjust. So when they walk out the door, it don't feel so unfamiliar to them. So in the reentry space, that's where I'm looking for in the next 7 years. But my ultimate goal is to get me about 100, 200 acres and start building a small city or small town, a small neighborhood, and teach my my grandchildren and my great grandchildren and my children how to expand and build on that and build wealth.
Entrepreneurship. Are there entrepreneurship classes in some?
Yeah, entrepreneurship. Yeah. I just got a new state this month, Massachusetts. I'll be running entrepreneurship program with 2 Massachusetts programs and prisons.
You go. I mean, I know you get it all the time, but I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud. I just love to see the evolution. And then because so many people will say, you just understand it's so hard. No, let me show you Mr. Kardell here. He doing it. So he doing it.
Yes. Well, I think what happens is, I think with me this last time, I never focused on that I was a felon and I was getting out of prison. I just focused on where I was going. Like everything. I had some bumps and bruises. Like people say, yeah, we hired you, and then you work for a week, and oh man, you didn't pass the background. We gotta let you go. Yeah, I went through that a couple of times, but outside of that, I always kept my eyes focused on my plan and my goals and my vision board, what I had. And so I just kind of took the bump with the bruises, and kept going on. But where a lot of guys fail is they don't have it lined up and they don't have the plan when they come out. They just come out and thinking that, oh man, I got to remember it in my head. But no, these things have to be written down. If you don't know how to go to the DMV or something like that, you need to write these steps down. So I just follow everything I did. I had written down, or I ripped out a magazine, like how to start a podcast. I was reading that in the magazine in prison. What's a podcast? It's like 2014, 15. So it said steps apart, and you're gonna need it for your business. So I ripped it out and said, I'm just gonna keep this just in case I need it. And when I got out, podcast was a thing, and all I had to do was go to my folder from prison, like I knew it, and open it up, and it had steps on how to start a podcast. And I got online, and that's exactly what I did, and started a podcast. But it was written out, and so that's what I got. A lot of guys like, you need to have these steps written out, and they need to be really specific. So when you walk out, all you doing is just following the steps. And the steps say, if you do this, and this result, and the result is what you're looking for, will happen.
Okay. One last question before I ask you my random question, because you mentioned that somebody released you from a job after a week. Is there, as part of the reentry process, are there not like a list? Here's where you go to get a job when you get out.
So, yeah. They give you a felony friendly list, but what they don't tell you about the felony friendly list is that a lot of them lists operates in if your felony occurred after so many years. And so like then it also goes when people say ban the box. Ban the box is good, but it really don't mean anything. I mean, it looks good because you're taking the question off, but the reality is you still want to go through a background check. And so no matter what box you're in, when you go do a job application and they hire you, they're going to do a background check. Now they can start you on that job while they go do the background check, which has happened to me a couple of times. And then they come back and say, oh man, you didn't pass the background. We got to let you go. And so, yeah, it's just, that's just.
We need some more felony friendly employers out there.
Yeah. That don't
you
focus
gotta
on,
eat.
a lot of them be like, if you had a felony that was within 4 years, 5 years, we can't hire you. Like, no, you need to make it within 10 years or or how about no years and I'm just qualified for the job. Now I understand if you're a banking, you go through my record and I don't have fraud cases or embezzlement or something like that, you don't want to hire me, or FedEx and I got DWIs and stuff like that. Like, yeah, we can't hire you. You got DWIs on it. We understand, I can understand. But outside of that, how about not having the background check to that point of extension to where a lot of times it almost don't matter what it is. If it is within that time slot, you ain't gonna get the job.
At some point, you have to ask, do people really want folks to successfully reintegrate to society? Because it seems like they put so many roadblocks where it's so difficult. But
yeah, it's roadblock after roadblock. And so like with me, I knew that. So that's why I was built to get into my home. So then I don't even have to worry about it. Like I work for me. But like I said, there was a process of roadblocks, and getting other jobs that I had. But overall, that's the ultimate goal. I mean, it should be, because it's so many roadblocks. That's why you see a lot of people who's coming out of prison branching off into entrepreneurship and things like that.
All righty, sir. Let me ask you my random question, and then you will be done with me for the day, because I've taken up more of your time than I should have. So let's see what I got here. Let's see what we got. When it comes to toilet paper, is it over or under?
It's under. It's under. It's under. Yeah. It's under. My wife don't play about that either. Yeah.
You'll be sleeping on the couch if you get her wrong.
Yeah, I got to. And I never paid attention to it until I got married. Like, to me, it made no difference. It's toilet paper, right? Yeah. One day I left it going over in the bathroom, and she came in like, "Quit doing that." I'm like, "Doing what?" The toilet paper goes under. I'm like, I don't care which way it goes.
It needed to do what it do, right?
It goes under.
Awesome. All righty, sir. Well, tell us how we pick up the books, check out the podcast, connect with you if you want you to speak to somebody we need you to speak to. Just tell us how we connect with you.
Yeah, so you catch my podcast. It's on all the podcasting platforms. It's called The Reentry Journey, where we highlight those who got similar stories as mine, is doing great things in the reentry space. My website is KardellSims.com. That's KardellSims.com. That's where you get all my books. You can see the works, what I'm going to do. You can see where I'm going to be at next. If you want to book me, you can book me there as well.
That's awesome. Well, sir, I thank you for your time. I thank you for being an example. I thank you for proving society wrong, because I'm pretty sure some folks have written you off and written more of you that look like you off. So I'm so proud of you being an example and leading the way. I'm looking forward to the next 13 books, the 100 Acres, and you impacting lives and changing the course of a lot of people. And so I'm looking forward to the work that you're going to be doing, sir.
All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you having me on as a guest. I really enjoyed myself.
Thank you for your time. That is all for this week's episode of The Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Black Men Matter series on The Male Perspective. This podcast is an initiative of Conversations in Color, a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to uplifting Black voices. Make sure to check out our website, conversationsincolor.org, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. We'll see you on the next episode.